This is 10 Eyewitness News. First at 5 with Georgina Lewis and Lachlan Kennedy.
Good evening. The numbers may have been down on the record turnout for the Gallipoli centenary, but big crowds at services across the state and around the nation have shown the Anzac spirit is well and truly alive.
It wasn't dampened by rain on the Gold Coast and in Turkey, or even a potential terror threat in Sydney. Jonathan Lee begins our coverage at the Brisbane dawn service.
A vanguard of veterans marching down Adelaide Street, thin in number but bristling with spirit. An estimated 15,000 people gathered, their faces exposed in the crisp pre-dawn moonlight. Fathers, mothers, daughters, remembering the lost sons of Gallipoli.
There were 26,000 Australian casualties. It was a military failure. However, the sustained heroic deeds of the Aussies and Kiwis on that rugged Turkish peninsula, the Anzac spirit is said then to have been born.
More than 102,000 Australians have perished fighting wars on foreign shores. Many more have returned home with wounds that never healed.
We must never forget veterans with war wounds which are not readily visible.
Dignitaries laid wreaths before a bugler called the ghosts of our diggers home.
It sends chills down my spine every time.
It just helps you realise the importance of what we have here in Australia.
The very first Anzac Day service was held in Queensland on this day 100 years ago. Australia's identity may have been forged in Gallipoli, but as the nation gathered here for the first time to honour the dead, the survivors were arriving in Europe, bound for bloody battles like the Somme, which would prove just as deadly.
Worse was to come. You're right, worse was to come.
Bob Slater recalled his own hell in Vietnam.
Just remember my friends a lot, you know. Lost 50 men out of my unit alone.
Yeah, very proud.
Today is a day we remember those who served and fought for our freedom.
What do you think when you see him wearing your slouch hat?
Yeah, your heart just jumps out of your chest.
It's that pride and sacrifice that have become the nation's bedrock. Jonathan Lee, 10 Eyewitness News.
They're known as weekend warriors, and for the past 2 days, our finest reservists from right across the country have gone head-to-head on the battlefield. The competition is part of the Army's military skills tests, and as Jonathan Lee found out, it pushes soldiers to breaking point.
It's a course designed to separate the best from the rest.
In, out, oh God!
For 2 days, 5 teams from Western Australia, Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland have competed at Enoggera Barracks for the right to call themselves the fittest and finest reservists in the Army's 2nd Division.
It tells us these guys are very, very fit, have got excellent leadership skills, their military training is first class.
Teams commenced their time trials at dawn. Amongst the obstacles, a 10-foot wall. The soldiers' kit, body armour and weapons weighing an extra 30 kilos.
Pull him up! Come on, pull him up!
They climbed, swung and crawled, pushing each other to breaking point. And this was just the start.
So the boys are just digging deep, that's all.
Then it was on to the spine-chilling bayonet course.
Left parry, in, out, on guard!
No Australian soldier has conducted a bayonet charge in battle since the Vietnam War, but it is still a weapon as intimidating as it is deadly.
Go down, guard! Push up the hill!
Through another tunnel, and it's into urban combat.
You can see it's torturous emotionally, physically. Australian soldiers are renowned for their ability to fight with a bayonet on the fields and the trenches, and it's a skill set that will maintain long into the future.
The last challenge, a live-fire shoot-off.
Overall, it's just a matter of mental toughness, just push through the pain.
This year's winners, Brisbane's 11th Brigade. Fun over. Tomorrow the camouflage is off and it's back to their day jobs. Jonathan Lee, 10 Eyewitness News.
The Australian Army has been keeping a powerful weapon under wraps, but now Private Joel Clifton is on a mission to become the next heavyweight boxing champion of Australia. Jonathan Lee has the story.
Joel Clifton is built for battle. By day, he's a rifleman in the Australian Army. When he's not dodging bullets, he's dodging fists, vying in 17 days to become the nation's next heavyweight champion. But don't expect brash, trash talk from this digger.
Train hard, fight harder. If you're humble in defeat and in success, then the world's your oyster.
As he's got great discipline, and he's always courteous in everything he does and with anybody he comes into meeting with.
Clifton has twice been deployed, serving in East Timor and Afghanistan, badly injuring his body along the way. If the ability to sustain pain is a prerequisite in boxing, well, Joel is well suited. In 2012, while patrolling in Afghanistan, he tore the muscles of both hips, but he didn't tell the medics for 12 months. So serious was the injury, he was forced into remedial training. It led him to boxing, a sport he did as a kid in Alice Springs. Fast forward a few years, and he's now Queensland's heavyweight champion, and his mates are proud as punch.
He's got a lot of courage, definitely. Can he fight? Just.
Standing in his way is New South Wales champ Willie Wild Bill Nazio.
It's going to be a tough fight.
He's respectful in the ring, outside of the ring, and he's just a good sportsman in general.
Just two modest men preparing to go to war inside the ring. Jonathan Lee, 10 Eyewitness News.
Mate's giving him a hard time too. I like
Very
that.
cheeky.
Brisbane's 7th Brigade took its armoured personnel carriers to the city's streets today. It was all part of a training exercise, as Jonathan Lee explains.
The Army calls them the tip of the spear, the cutting edge of our modern defence force. 7th Brigade has always been Brisbane's brigade. This year marks 100 years since their forefathers led Australia's charge into France, building a legacy and taking part in some of the most fearsome fighting of the First World War.
I can remember first one day before marching on Anzac Day, and the RSM yelled out, "You're marching in the footsteps of giants."
They don't just like their job, they love it.
It's the best one I've ever had. It's fantastic.
Today they're training for tomorrow's conflicts, navigating the city in armoured personnel carriers.
Beautiful, gorgeous.
Oh, even when you just get around Brisbane, it's one of the best feelings, just a simple wave every time we drive around.
Back on base, it gets serious, sweeping through buildings. Here they enter and rapidly clear one. On the other side, their enemy towers above. There is no waiting for backup. As modern warfare has evolved, so too has the 7th Brigade. These soldiers are now less likely to stay bound to their vehicles and enter into urban combat.
You know, the future enemy is moving into those urban environments, and we train to meet that threat.
They've come a long way from horseback.
Restructure, so we may be getting tanks in Brisbane within the next 2 to 3 years.
Next Saturday, April 23rd, the public is invited to its open day at 7th Brigade Park in Chermside. The squadron's military might will be on display, along with attack and support helicopters, sniffer dogs, even artillery, and some of the best men and women of the Army. Jonathan Lee, 10 Eyewitness News.
The Air Force has also joined the campaign against family violence. One of its giant transport planes flew over the city to remind us of the need to create a safer society for all. Jonathan Lee was on board.
Mark it down as a once-in-a-lifetime, buzzing Brisbane in our military's biggest and most expensive plane. At just 300 metres up, everyone wants a photo, but from the ground, the enormous ribbon explains the significance of this mission.
It's very important to make our female workforce feel safe, and obviously to make our male workforce more upstanding citizens.
Tonight is White Ribbon Night, a reminder that one woman dies every week from domestic violence, while 1 in 3 are abused by somebody they know during their lifetime.
Unless we break the cycle, there always will be a cycle.
A quick takeoff and the C-17 heads south. Before we know it, we're circling Cape Byron, Australia's most easterly point. Outside, a training plane captures snaps as we pass the luminous Gold Coast skyline.
It's an amazing experience for such a big aircraft that flies like a nimble fighter jet or a small light plane.
To give you a sense of just how enormous one of these is, a Globemaster can carry an Abrams tank. There's enough room in here for 3 Black Hawk helicopters. Australia now has 7, with an 8th and final one on the way. Each has a $300 million price tag. Our final one will be the last Boeing ever makes.
I guess when you're on it for quite a while, you just realise how just amazing awesome it is.
Over the Gabba we go, banking to turn up the river, almost within reach, the CBD skyscrapers. There's just enough time for a quick glimpse before we head home. Message spread, job done. Jonathan Lee, 10 Eyewitness News.